Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal again, wishing you bright blessings and an interesting fate. Here on Weird Science today, we are going to be talking about how to grow your own living servitors. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Now there's a living part of the process with these servitors. They're not going to be fully alive once you get to that point. Okay, so that's a lot. What am I talking about? Triops. We've done a bit on the triops before, and I've had a few videos on them. I've had quite a bit of success. But this goes back to the minion sigil, which we started with in the yeast, and then I went actually right to the triops, and we did one, and I went up with a lot of Daphnia, and we wound up connecting this to the servitor program on my full altar, and you want to call it. They became an energy exchange and a processing center with all the little lives living through their cycles, allowed my servitor to essentially process information through the life cycles and through the minds of the little creatures and connected them to it, and then the servitor
hard at it today. I mentioned a few times before that the Daphnia are taking pieces of wood and pulling them down. Well, what they're doing is they're taking them all the way to the bottom here into, you see all this algae? They're taking them down to here and then releasing them to float back up to the top. See, there goes a piece of wood now. They take them and they drag them all the way down there, and then it floats up here to the top where it gets more light. Now, I'm not trying to say that these individual Daphnia are doing this intentionally to create more algae. However, the servitor program is constantly running through these Daphnia in the background of their mind and influencing their behavior so that it can run its own processing. And I suspect that during that, they have probably created just enough of a hive mind that the servitor is doing things to influence their behavior and help them create a more stable environment so that they can be better used as a processor for it.
And the servitor began being born within these small life forms rather than a soul from somewhere else. Because a soul is simply a moment of awareness. We are all a collection of concepts, and we can create this, yeah? We're all familiar with the idea of a tulpa, egregore, servitor, whatever, becoming self-aware. Well, once it's self-aware, it's a soul, and it could technically inhabit a body. So, I've been working with the triops, and in previous experiments, I've been using this sigil to introduce a servitor's soul into the triop as it is being hatched. And we're doing that again. They're currently outside. I'll have some film of that I'm going to add to this video so you can see what we're talking about. But with the process, that I have put the servitor soul into the triop, and then we're going to allow it to live its full 90-day life cycle in the puddle. You add the eggs, and then you need to give them living water. And I'm not talking about a magical term there. This isn't a magical term. By living water, I mean water that has small organisms in it. So like water from your fish tank or something like that. And you put that in the sand in the bowl with the triops underneath of your own sigil. And of course, you'll need to have one going. You'll need to have the servitor moving and present already. But then we add the eggs to that water and hatch them under the sigil so that the servitor can become what becomes incarnated into that triop, and then it lives its life cycle, and then after the life cycle, we reanimate the caw like we've done with different skulls in, like with Boris, in the cash cow sigil, and the cash cow sigil. He has a reanimated caw from the bull skull. This is a reanimated bug, a triop. It's a prehistoric shrimp, essentially, that lives in puddles and has a very short life cycle. It's a very simple creature. I have done this in the past with amazing results. They've not been very centered. So we're going to try a little bit more of that as we go through the tryouts, and I'm somewhere where I can do this over and over again. This first batch is proof of concept. We're going to go with the Servitor sigil once again. There's 3 of them in there that are living quite well. They're doing quite well. And as they grow, they will be processing through the Servitor. And then when they finish, I will reanimate the cause, probably the same way that I reanimated Herald of the Rocks, the first of these tribes. And that was with yeast, which I will be getting out of this the yeast tank over here, and reintroducing that life force energy into the dead triop and allowing it to become a ghost, essentially a cause spirit. And in the past, the first one, Herald of the Rocks, I had no instructions for Herald. There was no real intent besides just doing the process. And he wound up just kind of lurking, but not just in my dreams. He's actually seen by other people that are connected to me and that I have protective spell work going on. He was seen around there. Didn't really seem to be doing much, but scuttling around in the background. Same as he would do in my dreams for quite a while. He would scuttle around in the background. And then we had Land in the Least, which was the next try-op after that I successfully went through this process with. And while I didn't see him much in my dreams, he had a very distinct ghostness, which was very useful for, well, teaching Cootie to track ghosts, because I could get him to go around and Cootie could see that there was a presence there, and she learned to associate the word ghost with Land in the Least when I brought him out. I simply had to remove him from his bag in the little vial, and he would come out and start moving around. I would tell Cootie ghost, and she wouldn't go for the vial. She would track the ghost around the room. And he was quite useful for that. She could see him. She's not the only dog that could. There are several dogs. If I took that vial out of that pouch, the dogs would start barking at it. Because, well, a lot of dogs can see ghosts and get quite freaked out by that. So, that's our successes so far. I've had quite a few examples of trying to grow the tribes and them not growing. This time I had them going. I hatched them under the sigil and then brought them outside into the light in a bird bath.
So we decided to try an outside method to grow the triops, and it looks like that's having some success. Surprisingly fast moving.
And they're growing quite well. I'm going to have to bring them under the porch though, because it's going to start raining soon. But everything is going well. We are going to reanimate them with positive life force energy in about 90 days once they've completed their cycle. And then we'll dry the puddle out and hopefully have an entire another batch to start again, because they should lay their eggs at the end. Okay. Okay. That's going to be it for this episode. Stay tuned, and we'll see how this experiment goes. We have a few more things to be talking about. A little later this week, we're going to talk about the all thing, the place where we all get to eventually, and all have always been. See if we can make sense of that. All right, that's it for this episode. See you next time.